What is potential? And maybe a better question is, who has the most potential in all of college football? Because we're sitting here about to jump into the glorious thing that is the college football season. I think it's fair to ask, who could maybe pop in a very big way and accomplish their potential this upcoming season? Hey, we appreciate you trying to maximize your own personal potential by tuning in to the People's College Football Show. This is the Hard Count. It is Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, the last one on the face of the planet, and we're so grateful to have y'all with us. I put out on my Twitter page today that today was, in fact, the biggest Wednesday of the week, and then I had a lot of people in my mentions with the eyeballs emoji and the question mark saying, wait, why? What's going on? And I felt bad because I was like, hey, I wasn't trying to lead anybody on. I don't know of any news that's about to break, and if news does break while we're on the air, we'll absolutely talk about it. But it's the biggest Wednesday of the week because it's today. So we're glad to have you all a part of this. We have a ton to jump into. Bruce Lee has one of my favorite quotes of all time when he talks about being formless, being water. Water takes the shape of whatever you put it into. And to be honest, y'all, that's the key in modern college football. Like in the new college football playoff, you might have to win a shootout against Texas in one round and then turn around the next week and then go play in a rock fight kind of game against a Big Ten team. So who are the teams outside of the betting favorites? It's a key differentiator that are the be-water teams, the versatile teams that could play in those kind of games and maybe make some noise on a national level. Also, I don't know if y'all heard Urban Meyer, but the old ball coach out there in Columbus said that this might be the most talented Ohio State roster ever. Ever. No qualifiers. Like, do you know how talented you have to be to have a coach that's coached multiple national title teams say that's the most talented Ohio State roster ever? And here's the thing, y'all. I don't think he's wrong. I don't. You look up and down the piece of paper that is the roster as we sit here now in June. That's a very key thing to say. It's June. It's a piece of paper. So we'll see how it translates. But they're locked and loaded. They are stacked. So how much validity is there to that statement? We'll unpack it together. And more importantly, what does that mean? What does that mean for Ohio State in 2024 and for Ryan Day as they look to get over the hump, beat Michigan, win an Natty, and let the good times roll again in Columbus? Got a lot of your what-ifs to get to, and we appreciate y'all doing that. It is a beautiful thing that is, of course, What If Wednesday here on this show, where we go to y'all's mentions on my Twitter page under the tweet where I said, what are the what-ifs that are going to shape the 2024 college football season? We got what-ifs on Coach Prime in Colorado. We got what-ifs on Nebraska in close games. We got what-ifs on LSU on the defensive side of the ball. God bless them in Baton Rouge. Lastly, we're going to predict the top offensive players in college football 25, the video game, because here's the deal. It's supply and demand on this show. Y'all are absolutely rabid about this new game coming out. It'll drop actually during media days. So if you have a PS5 in Dallas, hit me up and we'll talk shop. Who are going to be the top players on the offensive side of the ball? We'll go position by position there and have a good time doing so. So if you're tuned in live, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do this show, 3 times a week, live as we are right now in living color, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't want y'all to miss a minute of it. The time is fast approaching where they're going to start playing these games, and talking season turns to prediction season, turns to games being played in the college football season. It's a beautiful thing. Want y'all dialed in. So again, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on podcast, gosh dang it, we love you because you made time when you didn't have time. You didn't have time to tune in live, and it's okay. We appreciate you still making us part of what you're doing today. So if you're listening on podcast, just let us know. A little rate and review action helps us help you, helps us get this program to the people. So we're juiced up. It's a beautiful day to talk some ball, and we're going to do so now for the next hour, give or take, exclusively college football. So let's lock in. Let's have a good time. To answer the question that I started this whole freaking show with, who has the most potential in college football? Now, this is going to be specifically people. We'll do a team version of this segment here in the future, but when it comes to who has the most potential in college football, coach or player, I got to start with a coach. That's Dan Lanning at Oregon, man. It is, like, both internally and externally, there is everything there for success for Coach Lanning and the Ducks. 22-5 in 2 years. So he's still figuring out how to be a head coach. Like he's still going through his notes and tweaking the process. Doesn't hurt that he was around some of the greats. Nick Saban, probably heard of him. Kirby Smart, you definitely know who that is. He's still figuring out what he's going to be as a head coach, but he's got tremendous influences behind him. the thing that I love so much about Dan Lanning and the reason why I think he's going to continue to crush it out there in Eugene, he prioritizes and embraces recruiting. Like you hear coaches say this a lot to players, I can't want it for you, son. I can't want it for you. I can't want to go 110%. Dan Lanning goes 120% at all times, especially on the recruiting trail. Don't trust me, trust the numbers. Had a top 3 class in 2024, had a top 10 class in 23, currently working on another top 10 class in 2025, if not higher than that. Also, by the way, they've crushed it in the portal. Just look at that quarterback room. They got 2 of the top 5 cats from this past portal cycle that are there. Dante Moore and Dylan Gabriel, both obviously in that winter cycle. Evan Stewart, got him from A&M. Like they're going to be a player when it comes to acquiring talent, both on the high school side and the portal side. And Dan Lanning will tell you, man, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. Now, to be fair, Dan Lanning, another reason why I think he's got tons of potential is when it comes to the X's and the O's, like he knows what he's doing there as well. He has hired not 1 but 2 offensive coordinators in his 2 seasons as a head coach out there in Oregon. Both home runs. Kenny Dillingham, you hire him, you have success. He goes out to be a head coach at Arizona State, which is the cost of having success. And then what happens? You go out and hire another guy to be your OC, and Will Stein, you don't miss a beat. Bo Nix is a Heisman Trophy candidate. So the brand and the resources at Oregon are going to continue to support Dan Lanning and how he acquires talent. And that brand of Oregon, too, I'll say this, it's national. People know that, when they see it, especially when it comes to adding recruits at the high school or the portal level. So Oregon, I think they are made for modern college football. I think Dan Lanning is made for modern college football, and he's just getting started. Just getting started. Dan Lanning, one of the most potential-rich individuals in college football. Carson Beck, man, also I think has some of the most potential in college football, and people are seeing this and saying, well, JD, didn't he have a good year last year? Yeah, he did, but guess what? Last year was his first year as a starting quarterback in college football. He waited his turn at Georgia. Stetson Bennett, do your thing. I'll be here. I could hit the portal, probably start somewhere else tomorrow. Waits his turn, has a ton of success last year, as I mentioned. Almost 4,000 yards through the air, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, a completion percentage of 72%. Y'all being a first-year starting quarterback in the SEC, I don't care who you play for, that stat line doesn't happen. It also probably is worth noting here, he didn't have Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey consistently healthy throughout the course of last year. His best weapons, and he still did numbers like Good Will Hunting, y'all. So I think this upcoming season, they've added some more depth when it comes to playmakers for him. Colby Young from Miami, we've talked about him. Oscar Delp gets another year under his belt. Dominic Leva, another year under his belt. London Humphreys, a burner from Vanderbilt, is going to play wide receiver for them. Trevor Etienne. Like we could keep going here. They got more weapons to support Carson Beck. This one is not complex. This is not like a trick equation or a trick question as to why Carson Beck is going to be successful. He gets more experience, more confidence in himself, and also the staff, I have to believe, probably trust Carson Beck a little bit more this time than they did last year. And that's not to say they didn't trust Carson Beck, but as an offensive coordinator, as a staff, you're trying to not put too much on your first-year quarterback's shoulders when he gets the job. And oh, by the way, you're the defending national champions, kid. Don't screw it up. Like, that was the situation he walked into. This year, I think with the experience and the trust that he has, they're going to cut him loose a little bit more, and Kirby Smart has said this. So if I'm buying stock, buy stock in Carson Beck. I would encourage you to do so. Caleb Downs. He's just getting going. Like, he's just getting cooking as well. We talked about Carson Beck, his first year as a starting quarterback. He had some years to sit behind Stetson Bennett. Caleb Downs, it was his first year playing college football, period. He was playing college football at one of the most visible brands in the sport in a position group that was the GOAT's baby, which is, of course, Nick Saban. Like, the secondary, that is his unit now. If you don't play well in the secondary for him, like, you're going to hear about it. He was a true freshman in the most difficult conference in America, and he made it look easy. Had over 100 tackles. He was fourth in the SEC in tackles, and he was first in Alabama in tackles on the team. His football IQ is through the roof. It's superior. There's no question about it. Now he transfers with the departure of Nick Saban, the retirement of Nick Saban, rather. I guess Nick Saban hit the portal of game day, and we appreciate him for that as college football fans because we're going to get to watch that. That'll be awesome. Love that he's around the game still. Hits the portal, goes to Ohio State. I have no question he'll pick up the offense. It'll be pick up opposing offenses, rather. He'll pick up the defense. He'll have success. This came out yesterday. Might play some running back. Do you need that to happen if you're Ohio State? No. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're like, oh gosh, do we really need him back there exposing himself to more contact and maybe getting injured? We got Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. I hear you on that. I understand. My personal philosophy is if a little is good, a lot is great. A little athleticism and talent in that backfield is good. A lot is probably great. You definitely don't give Caleb Downs anything north of 10 carries a game or anything like that. But situationally, get to those games later in the year, get to the game against Oregon October 12th in Autzen, but who knows when that is again. No, not like we're tracking it like a hawk or anything, not like we're counting down the days till that game. If you get him the right touches in the right situations on the right stages, and he can have a couple of moments for you in big games and even be a decoy for you. I'm just saying, Caleb Downs, if he contributes on the offensive side of the football in the right capacity, he will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. We've said that many times so far since this news came out. I'm saying it again. Caleb Downs, tons of potential. That's his jumping off point last year. Absolutely ridiculous. Brian Kelly. Saying, JD, Brian Kelly, isn't he 62 years old? God bless him, he's 62 years old, and he is like a spring chicken. The reason why he came to LSU is for the potential of that job. Brian Kelly has won 73% of his games. He's coached a long time now. At Orgeron, won a national title at LSU. His career winning percentage, even with that magical undefeated run that LSU went on, 58%. Les Miles, even if you're not vacating the wins, that's a whole other discussion, career winning percentage of 66%. Won a national title at LSU. And so for Brian Kelly, if I'm looking at this thing from a broad strokes perspective, from a winning percentage perspective, he is a better coach than two other individuals that have won national titles at that same school. The question when Brian Kelly got there was, I don't know if it's a fit, the fake accent, this, that, and all those things. I mean, if you watched the show, you knew we never bought into that for a second. If you win, if you recruit, you're a fit. Brian Kelly in 2 years, 2 10-win seasons, 2 top 10 recruiting classes, working on his 3rd right now. He is a fit, okay? Looks like he's a fit just fine in my eyes. They have every resource they need at LSU to be successful. Going back to Brian Kelly, why he left Notre Dame. He could have been a 10-win machine at Notre Dame. Make the college football playoff, I guess, in this 12-team format we didn't really know about, but he could have been a 10-9-win guy pretty much every year at Notre Dame. I happen to believe that. Goes to LSU because of the resources, the fertile recruiting grounds, being in the SEC. Like, it is about winning a national title at LSU. That is why Brian Kelly is there. I have to believe that. So I think the best is yet to come for him. I think he's just laying the foundation for what he's going to do in Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly, some of the most potential in college football. Feel pretty confident in saying that. Here's a kind of a sneaky one for you. Isaiah Bond at Texas. Yep, Isaiah Bond, the transfer wide receiver from Alabama, is now in Austin. And the situation for him with that offense, the Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers, it is ready-made for success. Because tell you what, man, Adonai Mitchell, which is his legal name, and Xavier Worthy are both gone to the league. They leave a nice little hole there for a receiver to fill of, 2,000 yards, give or take, of production. Now, Texas also went to the portal and added some other individuals to help fill that void. But Isaiah Bond, man, I think what you saw last year with him at Alabama was sort of the appetizer to what he can be at Texas, because Alabama and their offense, they were still trying to find rhythm. I think Jalen Milroe will explode this year at Alabama, but I don't think he was a version of himself that was, or the offense rather, was a version of itself to really cut Isaiah Bond loose. Even with that being the case, he averaged 14 yards a reception. He's explosive as all get out. He's got elite speed. And this offense, you give Steve Sarkisian someone with elite speed who can win one-on-one, and give Quinn Ewers someone to deliver the football to, now him going into year 3, a little bit more poised for a big year. Isaiah Bond's going to cook. He's going to have a massive year. I think he's going to be a 1,000-plus yard receiver guy. It's call our shot season, so add that to the list. Isaiah Bond will be, in my opinion, a 1,000-yard receiver when it's all said and done this season at Texas. Last one for you, and this is a layup. This is like the layup of all layups if you're going with like the long game in mind. Nico Iamaleava is teeming with potential. We talked about him on yesterday's show. I'm going to do it one more time right now. He is an uber-talented quarterback, number 1 player in 2023, according to us here at On 3, in a quarterback-centric offense where the whole system goes through the quarterback, decision-making, pushing the ball downfield, all of that, coached by a head coach who's the play caller, who's now got a walkie-talkie in his hand directly to your helmet, who also played quarterback, who speaks the language at a really, really high level in Josh Heupel. So all those things mesh together to where I'm like, Nico Iamaleava, if he puts it all together and the game comes to him correctly and he's able to hit the ground running, which we've said a lot around young Nico, he's going to be special, man. Like Hendon Hooker probably should have been a Heisman finalist in 2022. Nico Iamaleava physically is more gifted than Hendon Hooker. Now, Hendon Hooker did some things from a savvy perspective, and I mean, he had some things going for him from an experience level that allowed him to be so successful in 2022. But that's Josh Heupel. That is essentially telling us that when we talked to him during an interview, he's like, yeah, Nico is as talented as any kid I've coached. To me, he is saying what I just told you. I think every physical gifting that Hendon Hooker had, Nico has, and maybe then some. So a lot of people last year were maybe a little bit flustered at times with the Tennessee offense, and they were expecting the 2022 version of that offense with Joe Milton at 2023 because he's got all these tools, he's got the rocket arm, he can do backflips, and hand up, I told y'all that the offense was going to stay on beat from 2022 to 2023. That did not happen, so hey, we missed there. But a lot of folks last year called for Nico. Hey, he's so talented, get him in the game, what's the worst that could happen? Tell you what, the fact that he got to sit behind Joe Milton and learn college life, develop physically in the weight room, learn the offense, get up to speed, learn how to practice, all those things, that is going to pay massive, massive dividends in 2024. The red shirt, I think, is arguably his greatest asset going into 2024. The experience, the fact that he didn't have to play right away and allowed the whole college football game to come to him, which we love. So who has the most potential in college football? Dan Lanning, without a shadow of a doubt. I think he is the guy to win a national title at Oregon if they're going to get it done. Carson Beck, he's just getting started. Year one last year, he cooked last year. That was just the opener. He's about to cook again in 2024 with more weapons. Caleb Downs, play some running back. I'm just saying, all bets are off. He's going to flash at Ohio State. Brian Kelly, he's 62, but he's in this job at LSU now where he is, I think, really cooking with some gas. Isaiah Bond, ready-made situation. Poised quarterback, mastermind offensively, a head coach and Steve Sarkisian. A lot of speed for him. He's going to have a massive year. And then Nico Iamaleava. Telling y'all, a lot of announcers right now, a lot of play-by-play guys are sitting by themselves in their office or in their booth or wherever they practice at, and they're just saying, Iamaleava, Iamaleava, with the strike. Like they are practicing saying his name because they're going to have to say it a lot in a positive manner. So those individuals, for my money, have the most potential in college football. And we'll do a segment, too, on teams with most potential in college football here in the not-too-distant future, so that'll be a good time. Hey, appreciate everybody out here right now. I see Jordan saying, God bless JD and the chat. Yeah, how about it, Jordan? We appreciate you being dialed in live, man. One of the many benefits of being tuned in live is we get to interact with y'all via the live chat. So if you haven't yet liked the video, it just helps us algorithmically. So we'll keep a good thing going. Hey, random college football player of the day for y'all. How about Taylor Martinez? Yeah, quarterback at Nebraska not all that long ago. In his career at Nebraska, over 10,000 all-purpose yards. T-Magic was his nickname. Absolutely sweet tattoo on the arm as well. Like he had some swag to him. Dual threat kind of quarterback. To me, he is still one of the all-time great cheat codes in NCAA 14. NCAA 13, I forget which version. Like, if you had the read option with T-Magic, he was making something shake. Like, I still remember, too, vividly the run. I think it was in the Big Ten title game where he must have covered, like, darn near 110, 115-ish yards on one run where he, like, runs to the sideline, cuts back. And this is a quarterback doing that now, y'all. It wasn't like this was some bubble screen to the wide receiver or, like, a punt return. Like, this is your quarterback making people miss in the open field, turning on the burners, getting to the crib. Taylor Martinez, one of the all-time greats for me when it comes to random college football players. Also, a little bit biased, he's from my neck of the woods. Played his high school ball at Corona Centennial out there in Southern California. So Taylor Martinez, your random college football player of the day. Random fact, too, on the Corona Centennial before we move on here. When you play 7-on-7 tournaments in California, you play with your high school, and most schools will get you a T-shirt, get you a little dry fit if you're, a Nike school, you have something nice to wear out there for passing league. Corona Centennial just says, we're going with no shirts. Like, hey, we're skins. Let's roll it out and play. Kind of a weird tradition, but I'm all about it. Nice little edge to the Huskies out there at Corona Centennial. All right, moving right along here. I mentioned this, too, at the beginning of the live show as I take a quick sip of caffeine here. A little bit of juice for our Wednesday. I mentioned this at the top of the live show. Bruce Lee has a quote where he talks about the importance of being versatile. And the quote goes like this. He says, be formless. Be shapeless like water. You put water into the cup, water becomes the cup. You put water into a teapot, water becomes the teapot. One, that's a freaking cool quote. Like, put that on a t-shirt tomorrow. Second, that's the key in modern college football. That is the key to winning national championships, dare I say, in a lot of conferences, conference championships. That's going to be crucial. In a lot of, I say in a lot, probably in every single college football playoff we see now going forward, teams will have to shapeshift to win national championships. You might have to play a shootout against Texas or an Oregon one week, and the next week have to turn around, and it's a rock fight. I mean, you're going back and forth in the line of scrimmage. You're trading field goals. Like, it might be that kind of a path to win national titles here going forward. So with that being our sort of our precursor, who are those teams that maybe have the ingredients to be water in 2024, that can be shapeless and have success? As I started to put the segment together, as I was lying in bed last night, I was like, well, man, you can't really just go down the list here and pick all the big boys, because quite frankly, a lot of those big boys, I think, have a lot of potential to be the shapeless, formless kind of teams, be versatile, like Georgia. We talk about that a lot. Ohio State, we're going to talk about them more in a little bit here. So who are those teams, here's the caveat, outside of the top 5 betting odds to win the national championship? So that eliminates for us Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Alabama. Those are the top 5 teams on FanDuel that have odds to win the national championship. So who are the teams outside of those odds that we think are versatile and are your be water kind of teams, if you will? So we say, okay, can't have the top 5? Let's go to number 6. The 6th best odds to win the national championship, and a team that I feel great about heading into 2024 for this exact reason, because they're going to be able to be formless and be shapeless and be water. It's Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss, man, and I like them to win any style of game. They bring back 80% production from last year's squad offensively that scored 31 points a game. Most importantly now, your quarterback, okay, Jackson Darty's season, I think he's going to have a massive year, taking yet another step in this RPO scheme. You bring back Trey Harris, and oh, by the way, just because you felt like it, you went out and got Juice Wells, one of the best receivers in the SEC from a couple years ago over there from South Carolina. He's going to be a dog for you. So you have that going for you. But also, if you look at Ole Miss a season ago, they were also a run-first football team. Like 55% of the time, Coach Weiss and Coach Kiffin are dialing up some run plays. And so I think the mix of being able to stretch the field vertically, they also want to attack you on the perimeter, but also being able to slow the game down, go some quarterback design runs with Jackson Dart, move the line of scrimmage up front. I think Ole Miss has that in their bag this year, especially with what they bring back offensively. So I think they can play multi-styles there. But then defensively is the big part here for Ole Miss. This is why I think they are one of those be-water teams. This defense goes into their 2nd season under Coach Goldney. Suntarine Perkins, he's a freak show linebacker for you. You got him. You got Ivy. He's a beast for you. We talk about these dudes a lot. Princely Umanmielen and Walter Nolan, adding them via the portal on the defensive line gives them more of a puncher's chance, in my mind, to match up with those teams in a rock fight kind of game. So Ole Miss, to me, definitely one of those be-water teams, one of those versatile teams in 2024. They can apply pressure for you on the ground and also through the air. Here's a sneaky one now. They're kind of flying under the radar a little bit. We had them in our top 10 preseason, or our post-spring, rather, I guess, so that is preseason, top 25 teams in college football. How about Utah? They're sneaky now. They're sneaky. Coach Whittingham, man, we know what they're going to be. This is like every single year. I mean, let's look to the next 3 years. If Coach Whittingham is still at Utah, they will be physical up front. They will be able to stop the run the ball. That's going to be their MO. That's who they are. All right? Now, however, you insert back into that lineup Keithy, the tight end. You insert back into that lineup one of the best quarterbacks in college football when he's healthy in Cam Rising with some sweet flow out the bucket. And then you bring back Money Parks. You went out and got Dorian Singer, big-time playmaker in the Pac-12. Rest in peace, Pac-12. This is going to be a squad now that can attack you in the trenches. And then also, I think with Cam Rising, if he's healthy, which is a major, major if, they're going to be able to score points in bunches because of his experience and because of his physical ability. Whether it be throwing the ball or running the ball, he's going to be a factor for you. Again, we hope he's healthy. But Utah, one of those teams now that can play in multiple styles of games. If they get into the college football playoff, look out. That's all I'll say. Look out. Notre Dame, another versatile team, another B-Water team. A lot of this, for me, hinges on Riley Leonard. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But, they have all the pieces offensively to be multidimensional. Because last year you had Audric Estime, and he was just your sledgehammer for you. He's gone to the league. But I think that mentality is still there offensively, even with your new OC and Mike Denbrock. And then defensively, as long as Marcus Freeman is your head coach, I say this a lot about coaches, you can't change where you come from. Forget geographically. I'm talking about from a football perspective. Marcus Freeman is from the defensive side of the ball. As long as he is your head coach, there will be an identity and a swagger and a emphasis on playing good defense. That was the case last year. You bring back some key pieces, even with losing the guy like J.D. Bertrand. Great name, by the way. Some key pieces back in the secondary in Xavier Watts, in Ben Morrison. They got some dudes now. Jordan Botello, I love. This is the year, Jordan. Hey, we've been buying stock for a while. This is the year we cash in. Got some guys on defense to make something shake. If Riley Leonard can unlock the deep passing game, like Mike Denbrock can do with Riley Leonard, a version of what he did with Jaden Daniels at LSU, they're going to be lethal. Because they went out and got some real speed in the portal, and Chris Mitchell and Jaden Harrison, guys that are from G5 schools but are going to absolutely burn at Notre Dame this upcoming season. Jeremiah Love, I've been extremely bullish on for a while now. They got some dudes that can make real amounts of electric kind of plays offensively. You pair that with the defense, I like where Notre Dame sits. Again, sitting in that 5 spot, fresh off a bye because no conference championship game. If they end up in that 5 spot, home game in South Bend for a college football playoff round 1 game, and then you go play probably a Big 12 or ACC champ the next game. Look out for the Irish now. Marcus Freeman challenging everything, and it's paying dividends. One more sneaky team for you here, because we had to get a little creative because you get outside of the top 5 betting odds. You're like, okay, well, these teams are outside of the top 5 betting odds for a reason, right? So we're projecting a little bit here, but Wisconsin, man, I'll be honest here, hand up. We've had a couple of hand up moments already throughout the show based on last year's takes. Joe Milton, I thought he'd be great. Hand up. He wasn't great. He was good, wasn't great. Hand up again. I fell for Wisconsin last year, y'all. I fell for Wisconsin. Tanner Mordecai was coming in there with so much juice. Braylon Allen looks like an action figure. Luke Fickell, all those. I fell for it hard last year, y'all. I'm back. I'm falling for them again. Wisconsin, man, they bring back 71% production from last year's defense that allowed right around 20 points a game. You lose Braylon Allen. You lose an Avenger in the backfield. That sucks, right? Let's be honest. That sucks. This backfield should still be really good. You got Walker transferring in from Oklahoma in the backfield. You got Ches Malusi in the backfield who's back. 2 proven commodities. If Tyler Van Dyke can get back to his old ways of what he was at Miami under Rhett Lashley, and this marriage with Phil Longo is able to translate to how we expected it to translate with Tanner Mordecai last year, look out for Wisconsin. Look out for Wisconsin. That's all I'm going to say, because Bama trots in there early on in the year. It'll be big noon. Jump around. It'll be Blair and Gus Johnson on the call. I'm just saying, look out for Wisconsin. They're pivoting to this new Wisconsin with Luke Fickell there and Phil Longo with the offensive attack there. They're no longer a 5 tight end, 6 tight end, 8 tight end kind of operation. I'm being hyperbolic. I understand you can't have 8 tight ends on the field at a time, though that would be cool. I'm just saying, old Wisconsin is still existing. The physical brand is still there with, I think, the new edge of what they want to be offensively. Wisconsin, one of those teams now, if they can play in shootouts, look out. Because the rock fight juice is there, if you ask me. So the teams that are water, are formless, are Bruce Lee-ish kind of teams, if you will. Ole Miss, Utah, Notre Dame, and Wisconsin all very versatile, and all teams that I think, if they were to get into the dance, could present some issues for some unsuspecting opponents. Hey, we're glad to have y'all dialed in, man. Hey, no, I see it. I see it in the chat. Wisconsin. I'm not backing off of it. If we sit here again next year and I'm saying, hey, 2 years in a row, I got burned on Wisconsin, so be it. I haven't made any predictions. I'm just saying I like the roster. I like where they sit. So we're about to move on here into some of your what-ifs, which is a big reason to follow us on the social channels, Instagram and on Twitter, @JDPiquel. But I want to give a quick anecdote here because I'm drinking some caffeine. The caffeine is not sponsored, by the way. Not sponsored, which kind of ties into this story. So in this, I'll take a quick sip here. Into the story there without the caffeine. Dangerous territory. So we have a room here that is right next to our office, in the office rather, outside of our workspace, that is home to a mini fridge that stores caffeine in it. Like you can find any caffeine you want in there, you can find it. You got Celsius, you got Reign, you got Zoe, you got Bang, like whatever you need, more than likely at any given time, there's something in there for you. Big part of this, though, it is honor system. It is communal, but it is on the honor system. So you're not paying for it when you take something out, and you're not making a big scene when you put something in. Like it's all on you. So it's on the community to keep that thing stocked. So I take my fair share, as you could tell. I've taken 1 or 2 of those a day, sometimes 3. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. So I go one day, I finally say, you know what, I probably owe this fridge a 12-pack. I see it getting lower, I owe them a 12-pack, and so I walk in there with my energy drinks, prepared to kind of be the guy to restock the fridge and be the hero, and I walk in, that thing is already stocked to the brim. Like, it's stocked so much to where there's extra energy drinks on the ground next to the fridge. If that's not great culture, if that's not everybody having their oar in the water and pulling the same direction, I don't know what is. Just wanted to brag on my coworkers here really quick. We're filling fridges. We're filling the fridges. I don't know if that's going to read great on a T-shirt, but we're filling the fridges, and we're making sure the caffeine habit is fully taken care of. All right. So I put out this on my Twitter page. I asked y'all, what are the big what-ifs that will shape the 2024 college football season? Y'all responded, as you always do, in 5-star fashion. My man Blake hit us up. He says, what if Nebraska now, what if they start winning some of these one-score games? What if they get over the hump, so to speak? Now, full disclaimer here. If you are a Nebraska fan, I am going to mention a lot of statistics that you already know about. So if you are a Nebraska fan, just kind of enjoy this, sit back, nod your head. Yep, we heard that one before. Because this is, in a lot of ways, for the non-believers in the Corn crowd. A lot of people that say, oh, Nebraska, they've been so close, that's all they're ever going to be. All right, that's fine. You can think whatever you want. You're entitled to your opinion, but we're going to make our case here for what this what-if would mean. In the last 3 years, Nebraska is 4-19 in one-score games. They lost 9 one-score games in 2021, 5-22, and 5-23. They only won 4 of those one-score games because part of you kind of feels like, all right, well, surely if Nebraska's dropping that many one-score games, they must have won a couple, right? No, only 4. Now, all that really matters is that you had the last season with Matt Rule. He wasn't there for the 21 or 22 season, so take that as you will. But if Nebraska starts winning one-score games, make no mistake about it, they will factor into the Big Ten title conversation. Notice what I did not say. I did not predict Nebraska to win the Big Ten. I did not say they're going to go out there and whoop Ohio State. I'm telling you Nebraska is going to factor in to the Big Ten conversation. The reason why I feel that way, this is not a roster that lacks juice. This is a roster that lacked cohesion in some ways in terms of being able to put it all together, but like they have played a lot of teams, good teams, down to the wire. Don't believe me? Iowa, 10-win football team last year. Say what you want about their offense. They had 10 wins, and Nebraska played them to 3 points. Probably should have won that game, if we're being honest with you. What would winning close look like if you're Nebraska? The great news if you're a Nebraska fan, nothing groundbreaking. Like if you just want to find a way to flip those one-score games oftentimes come down to one play. One play oftentimes comes down to you winning your matchup on that play. Now, the key factor here, you don't know what play is that going to be, so what does that matter? What does that emphasize? The details. And we've said this many times, Matt Rule, man, he majors in the details. Majors in the details. It is what it is. Like, when I was around him, and I've said this before on this show, like everything down to what socks you wear is important to him. Heard stories last year at Nebraska practice, they're checking in what mouthpiece you're wearing. You say, JD, that's so stupid. What does that have to do with anything? It has everything to do with anything, because the little things make up the big things. If I can trust you to wear the right mouthpiece at practice, then I can trust you on 4th and 1 when we need to get this play. We need to get this stop. We need to get the extra yard, whatever it is. And so what I'm trying to say here is, if this team buys in and takes it upon themselves to do things Matt Rule's way and this staff's way, they're going to win 7 ball games. Like, I feel pretty confident in putting that number out there. They're going to be a 7-win football team right in that neighborhood. And that's great. Hey, made a bowl game. The bowl drought is over. Vibes are high. You're talking about what you're going to do in 2025, and that's all well and good. But, like, here's the thing, too, with this staff. Like, nobody there is signing up to win 7 ball games. As much as you would have taken that last year, you want to go 7-5, that sounds a lot better than 5-7, but, like, nobody's signing up to go win 7 ball games. So how do you improve upon that? How do you raise the standard there? Well, you talk about the one-score games. I think every Nebraska fan would tell you, like, the turnovers were a massive issue last year. Like, they were the issue last year. We talked to Will Compton, and he gave us some adult language as to how he felt about the turnovers last year. Nebraska was minus 1.5 on the turnover margin last year. So they're spotting their opponents before the ball even gets snapped 1.5 possessions. It's hard to win a fight when you're spotting someone extra punches. At quarterback, they had a 6% interception rate as a team. Good for 132nd in the country. There's only 134 teams. So they're giving the ball away like it's free candy on Halloween. Hard to win football games that way. So the reason for optimism, as you've probably heard about if you watched any 10-second clip of spring football on Twitter at Nebraska, is Dylan Raiola is supposed to be the guy to turn that around, right? And I'll say this, you play Dylan Raiola as your starting quarterback whenever that time is. I think it's game 1 for the record. He's your starter because of his ceiling and where he can take your offense, because he's got an arm that is just, quite frankly, next level. Like, he throws the football, it looks different than anybody else on your roster. But I think he stays your guy. He stays as the guy for you if he makes good decisions. Now, I'm not proposing that you start Dylan Raiola and give him a short leash, and if he throws an interception, you yank him. I'm not saying that. But I am saying a lot of pressure, I think, is on Dylan Raiola to make good decisions. I think there's arguably just as much, if not more, pressure on Marcus Satterfield, the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, to help him in his maturation process. Like, we go into the game during game week, like we have our game plan. It is whatever Dylan Raiola feels good about. If he doesn't like something in that playbook, he struggled with it during the week, he's having trouble making that throw or making that read, whatever it is, that's not in the game plan. Why? Because that allows more opportunity for error, for turnovers, for things that have killed you in the past if you're in Nebraska. So you have to really bring him along, I think, slowly but surely, as much as he's able to work with, because the last thing you'd want to do is put too much on his plate and then have that lead to him having his confidence bruised early on in his college career. Now, I'm not trying to speak to the competitive makeup of Dylan Raiola. I'm just saying that feels like common knowledge or common sense to where you want to boost and nurture and help your true freshman quarterback his first time starting in college football. Feel like that's not a stretch. So with that being the case, it's also, I think, worth noting, we talked about the floor, but like the ceiling for Dylan Raiola and why he would be your starting quarterback can't just be glossed over. Like, he changes the way that defenses have to play you. Like, he can make that 50, 60-yard strike downfield. He can make it, from what I understand, semi-routinely, enough to win football games at a high level. And last year, Nebraska ran for 175 yards a game. The defense allowed 18 points a game. A lot of that production in both those sectors is back at Nebraska. So from a gameplay perspective, you still have the bread and butter. You lean on the defense, you let them cook, you turn around, you hand the ball off, you move the ball forward, line of scrimmage, let's push and pull a little bit. Let's make sure that we still play that physical brand of football. But then when the defense wants to put their hand in the cookie jar, then Dylan Raiola pushes the ball down the field, strike up the band, vibes are high. That's a way where Dylan Raiola and Nebraska and Marcus Satterfield can elevate past 7 wins. They can be an 8-win football team, We had Will Compton on here tell us he thinks they're a 10-win football team. I think 9 isn't unrealistic. If you go 8-4, you're happy with it, but I think a lot of it, to me, speaks to Dylan Raiola and his ability to take care of the football and then capitalize when money's on the table. So what will happen if Nebraska starts winning football games? It means Dylan Raiola started balling. It means they stopped shooting themselves in the foot. And it means that Nebraska is a force in the Big Ten. And if they get some momentum too, we talk about this a lot, they get some momentum on the recruiting trail now because of the proof of concept on the field, and Matt Rule gets to do what he does, which is develop. Nebraska's not going quietly into that good night in the Big Ten. And I understand the Big Ten is stacked, man. Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State. Well, Ohio State is Ohio State. They're a Death Star this year. USC, I don't expect to stay down, but Nebraska now, they are going to factor in if they start winning some close ball games. And full transparency, I expect them to start winning some close ball games. We ride. We ride. All right, again, appreciate everybody tuned in live. Make sure you've liked the video. Hey, little thumbs up icon under the picture. Just helps us help you. Urban Meyer had some thoughts around Ohio State and their roster this upcoming season. Urban Meyer, obviously been a head coach at Ohio State, won a national title at Ohio State, one of the best head coaches to come through Ohio State. He knows ball. You know, I hate that phrase on the internet. You know ball, you don't know ball. It is what it is. Like, I think that's kind of a social media deal. Urban Meyer, though, for the record, he does know ball. He had this to say about Ohio State and what they're looking like this upcoming season.
But as of now, this is one of the most talented rosters in the last decade, maybe ever. I mean, that's a big statement. They got to play, but you look at the quality of athlete at every position, I've never seen anything like it.
So Urban Meyer saying that the most talented potentially ever that they've had at Ohio State. One, I don't think he's saying that lightly. Two, I think he's got a pretty good reference point for what talented rosters look like. I mentioned he's won national championships before. He's won national championships at Ohio State before. And if you don't trust Urban Meyer, you don't think that he's being 100% truthful because he's maybe a little bit biased to Ohio State because he coached there. You're entitled to your opinion. I would disagree with you because what our eyes tell us, based on what they have on paper right now, it's tough to argue with. Like, you look up and down this roster, I don't see a lot of weaknesses. The defense, you bring back pretty much everyone from last year's unit. It's top 5 in the country, give or take. You add in Caleb Downs. I think you upgrade at quarterback in Will Howard. How much of an upgrade remains to be seen, but I'm going to die on this hill going into the season. I think he's an upgrade. I think he's good enough to get what you need done at Ohio State. I think you got the best backfield in America. Quinshawn Judkins from Ole Miss, Travion Henderson. You know what he is at Ohio State? 2,000-yard backs when they're healthy. You got the best wide receiver room in America. Hat tip Jesse Simonton, here it on 3. The offensive line, is it a strength? Hard to say it's a strength right now. Is it a weakness? I think that is very much so unfair if you're going to call it a weakness. I would not say that's the case at all. So you look down, all these different boxes for Ohio State, you keep checking them off, and you're like, okay, let's roll now. We got everything we need, and that's the case. You do have everything you need, but here's the thing. Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, one of the all-timers, when he looks Peter Parker in the eyes and he says, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, I don't know who's having this conversation with Ryan Day, but with great roster talent comes great responsibility and great expectations, and that's where you sit right now in 2024. Because Urban Meyer saying they're the most talented ever, that's 100% true. But talent hasn't really been the issue for Ohio State. Like, you got C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 top 10 picks on your roster, and you're falling short against Michigan. And it's unfair, but at the same time, it's what you sign up for when you're the head coach at Ohio State. You got to beat Michigan. You got to win national championships. He came however far away that kick was from the left upright and going and playing for, and I believe winning a national championship when they lost to Georgia in the semis, and I think they would have absolutely body-bagged TCU, but, it is what it is. It's 0-3 the last 3 tries against Michigan. I think this is an interesting thing to look at, though, when you look at how Ohio State is poised to play in 2024. Because if talent isn't the issue, then what's the issue? Is it scheme? Is it X's and O's? I have a hard time believing that. To add more fuel to the fire for Ohio State in 2024 and, to add more juice to the hype train, you went and got a Big Ten head coach in Chip Kelly who's going to call your offense for you. And you got Jim Knowles, who is the mad scientist of defensive football and college football, running the show for you on defense. So, okay, check those boxes as well. I don't think it's X's and O's. I think from the outside looking in, it's fair to wonder the competitive makeup previously of Ohio State. Now, not still, but in those games against Michigan, it looked like Michigan was able to impose their will, had a little bit more fire, a little bit more juice. That was the case then. Now, every villain, man, they got an origin story. They do. Ohio State, the juice around them, or the lack thereof juice around them, from losing to Michigan the last couple of seasons has been noticeable. And at first it was doubt. It was, can Ohio State beat Michigan? Can Ryan Day beat Jim Harbaugh? Can they get over the hump? It was doubt at first. That doubt, I think, this past offseason has turned into a little bit of disrespect. It has. And disrespect to me is a lot like stubbing your toe in a sports world. Like when you stub your toe, you have two responses. You say, that hurts, feel the pain, cry about it, sit down, you ice it, you feel sorry for yourself. Or you go into Super Saiyan mode, say, gosh dang it, that hurt, fires you up, and then you get superhuman strength. So for Ohio State, how do they respond to the disrespect they've had this past offseason? I've said this many times. I think the failure to meet their goals these past couple of years may actually be their greatest asset in 2024. Because at this point now, there's no fear of the unknown. There's no fear of the worst-case scenario if you're Ohio State. You've experienced now. In real time, you've experienced it. Can you dust yourself off and use that to push you forward to go accomplish your goals? Because nothing internally, nothing on paper for Ohio State is going to keep them from winning it all. Definitely nothing going to keep them from beating Michigan with the way that Michigan is set up in 2024. That's not a prediction. That's just a matter of fact. I love the sense of urgency from Ryan Day. Talking about the whole response to stubbing your toe. Does it fire up and make you go get after it, or does it kind of make you feel sorry for yourself? I've seen it fire Ryan Day up to this point. Like, he has not sat back and said, well, our roster is still really good. Well, we still bring our quarterback back in Kyle McCord. Let's give it another year. Let's let it bake a little bit, and we'll see where we are. There was none of that from him. He's like, hey, I got to get better. Chip Kelly, you call the plays. Hey, we get better on defense. Caleb Downs, you come be safety for us. Hey, we got to get better at quarterback. Will Howard, come run the show for us. Quinshon Judkins, let's get better in the backfield. Like, there was nothing that was pushing Ryan Day on paper on this roster that was like a gaping hole and need for them to fill with what they've done from what they've acquired through the portal at the running back position, what I just mentioned on defense, the coaching moves. It has all been Ryan Day self-assessing, understanding the standard, pushing forward, and saying, we got to be better. This is not okay. We got to be better. So is this the year? Not sure. I think they have all the makings to do it for the exact same reason that Urban Meyer just said. This is the most talented team Ohio State, in recent memory at least, has ever had. More than that national title team that Urban Meyer coached. More than that team with C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. Talent hasn't been the issue, though. It's approach, from my understanding. It's competitive DNA. From the outside looking in is how it looks to me. I think those are in better places this year, and I cannot wait to see what they do in 2024. Stubbing your toe, man, it hurts. Nobody likes it. Doesn't feel good. But at the end of the day, man, sometimes that's the big difference maker. Hey, I've seen in the chat, no, it's not about cheating, not about sign stealing, none of that. As Andy Staples would say, look inward. Look inward, if that's the reasoning here. All right, we're going to keep a good thing going here. Again, more caffeine. If a little is good, a lot is great. That's also our approach when it comes to caffeine. Can't get over Caleb Downs if he plays offense this year. Golly, that would be electric. I would love to see it. That's all I'll say. I'd love to see it. One more what if for you here. I guess two more what ifs, but another what if here from our guy JT Sports. I'm going to prep you here. Major what if here. Major what if is coming in hot. Not a prediction. Can I put that in bold letters and neon? Not a prediction. Great. JT Sports says, what if Deion wins the Big 12 in 2024? Now, if you bet on that in Vegas, go ahead and buy yourself whatever you want because the odds are plus 4,200 per FanDuel. If this happens, make no mistake now, all the talk in the offseason, all the people like me in particular as well, that have sat here and questioned what Deion can do at Colorado this year, Deion gets the last laugh. He would. And we'll come back to the videos where we have questioned their process and questioned the portal and questioned the recruiting strategy and all that, and we'll say we were wrong. So that's one part of this. What it would mean, though, for Colorado, it means that their portal strategy, what I just said a second ago, that would have worked because the line of scrimmage has been the eyesore for Colorado this past season. Now you're trying to put it together with sticks and glue because you were a one-win football team before Deion got there. But even so, like, the facts are the facts. You have to get better on the line of scrimmage, especially if you want to win the Big 12. It would also probably mean, if you win the Big 12, that recruiting, that's through the roof. And I have my own reservations about how I would like to see Deion Sanders go about it. I promise you, he does not care 1 ounce what I think, and that's one of the reasons why he is as successful as he is as a human being in his different careers. Not because he doesn't listen to me, because he doesn't listen to other people, so we'll just make that differentiation there. But it means recruiting's probably on fire because remember the gasoline that was being poured on Colorado recruiting when they were 3-0? Heck, when they were 2-0. Like, people are wanting to take visits. People want to get out to see games. People are wanting to be around Colorado. Colorado is all anybody can talk about. And so if that happens, like there's one recruit out there right now, quarterback currently committed to USC, that I know Colorado fans are keeping a very watchful eye on in Julian Lewis. I think he's sticking with USC as of right now. But if Colorado wins the Big 12, it doesn't hurt your chances at landing guys like Julian Lewis or other individuals that are of his caliber. It would cause the rest of college football, I think, also to reimagine how they view the portal. Because we've sat here and said, yes, you got to use the portal, but is it the entree instead of the appetizer? Probably not. You probably still have to use it in a surgical sense, and it can't be, the end-all, be-all for you, like Deion Sanders is trying to do right now with them flipping the roster. Now, Deion is doing it out of necessity, but if they do it out of necessity and then they go win the Big 12 in a conference that has a lot of other really strong rosters in there, like Kansas State, like Utah, like Oklahoma State, people are going to reinvent the way that, one, they look at the portal. Two, you'll see athletic directors reinvent the way that they hire guys. Because Deion Sanders came to Colorado with no power conference coaching experience, which is not a wildly, uncommon thing to hire a coach to the first time as a power conference head coach, with no experience. We've seen that happen at multiple different locations, but Deion Sanders went from the high school ranks to the FCS ranks to the Power 4 ranks. I'm just saying, I think you would have a little bit more proof of concept there to the Ted Lasso sort of approach, the Will Ferrell sort of approach, kicking and screaming, hire a charismatic individual that attracts talent and hire a great staff underneath him and let him cook. Now, this is also something that's kind of interesting. It means that Colorado's in the college football playoff, whose odds are plus 2,200 to make the playoff. A lot of people are putting money down for them to win the national championship. Is your money? Tons of eyeballs on college football, even more so than we had last year. Like the tidal wave of interest around college football, if Deion Sanders and Colorado is in the college football playoff, the limit does not exist. Mean Girls. Limit does not exist. So how would this happen? Colorado last year, it's pretty obvious. We've talked about it already. They really struggled on the line of scrimmage. And so if they're going to win the Big 12, I think they have to find some kind of way to maximize their strengths. So how do you maximize your strengths? You try and cover up your weaknesses. That's pretty obvious. But to put a finer point on this, Colorado last year, and I expect again this year, was a really good throwing the football team. I mean, they averaged right around 295 yards passing. It's top 15 in America. That's great. You got a quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, who I believe has all the makings to be a first-round pick. That's great. The problem was you weren't able to maximize that. Why? Because defensively, you were giving up 34 points a game, I believe, and you allowed you were only able to rush as well offensively for 2.3 yards a carry, one of the worst in the country. So the trouble with that is it's like when you're playing basketball. If I know that you are no threat to me going left, what am I going to do? Take away your right. Okay, well, if I take away the right hand, you can't go left, then we're kind of at an issue, right? You might go right a few times on me and get some buckets. You might put up good numbers going right, but for the most part, you're not winning that matchup because you're one-dimensional. And defensively, we mentioned this too, allowing 35 points a game. That's not good. I believe they allowed north of 5 yards of carry defensively. That's not good. So they got some ground to make up there. But if they can just be mediocre in those categories and they can still push the football downfield, Colorado's not going to be fun to play. For the record, I think if they win the Big 12, it means they got into a lot of shootouts and the defense was able to get enough stops to help them win that football game and win enough football games. So the bad news for Colorado is their October to end of November schedule is absolutely brutal in the Big 12. The good news is a lot of those big games, a lot of those tough tests are at Colorado. So you got Kansas State at Colorado. You're at Arizona on the road, but you got Cincy at Colorado. You're at Texas Tech, which is sneaky. You got Utah, which is massive to get them at home. You're at Kansas, and you got Oklahoma State at home. So Utah and Oklahoma State at home, you don't want to go to Stillwater. You don't want to go to Salt Lake City. That's advantage Colorado. It's going to be tough tests. We'll see where they are in that point in the season, but those are going to be tough tests. So we'll see what happens there as they get further and further into it. But that's kind of the silver lining there if you're Colorado. Let's go back to this what if, though. If they win the Big 12, I think we need to go back and revisit what we say about Deion Sanders as a head coach. Because right now, I think the thought is Deion Sanders, a lot of star power, name has a lot of juice to it. He's going to attract a lot of guys to come and play for him on that alone. But if he goes out and wins the Big 12 after retooling the staff on both sides of the football, retooling the roster for another year forward, we talk about him being a great football coach, great football mind, great football builder. And I'm not saying he's not right now, but I'm just saying we are still, I think, becoming acquainted with Deion Sanders as a head coach in college football. But if they win the Big 12, every excuse that you had about him, every excuse I had about him, everything that I didn't believe that Deion Sanders was, again, we're a hand up, we're on the show, we're saying, hey, that's on us. That's on us. We were wrong. Deion Sanders put it all together and made it all work in a very short period of time that was previously a one-win operation. So, again, this is a massive what if. Here's the most interesting question, though, to me, just to kind of follow through on this exercise here. If Deion Sanders and Colorado win the Big 12, what's Deion's next move? Because at that point, Colorado is cooking with gas. I mentioned, the recruiting efforts are already rolling. They're already rolling. You're already acquiring more top talent. You don't have to lean on the portal quite as much as you did these last 2 years. You're primed, pun intended, to do some really good things. On the other hand, this is just my own opinion. I'm not telling you that I have inside information. It's not a prediction. I'm wondering out loud, as we do on this show often, does Deion Sanders feel like he's checked the box at Colorado? Does he feel like, okay, wipe my hands, job well done, good work. Both his sons going to the league, Travis Hunter going to the league, left Colorado in a much better place than when he found it. I wonder if maybe it's now I'll take a bigger job that I'm sure would be available for him. Do I want to go do something in the professional football sphere? I don't know what that would look like, but his kids are going to the NFL, and that's kind of been a paralleling career for him with them being in high school and then being at Jackson State and then being at Colorado. Do they all go to the NFL together? I don't know. I'm not telling you I know, but I'm saying that to me is the most interesting next phase of Deion Sanders and what he has done at Colorado and what he would do at Colorado. But if he does this, again, every negative thing that anybody had to say about Deion Sanders as a football coach, myself included, would be eating our words. And, again, for college football, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it'd be great to have that intrigue. And it would be larger than football. It'd be larger than college football. That would be a lot of fun for us as a sport to be able to enjoy together. So, major what if, but it's that time of year. You can't rule anything out. You know what else you can't rule out, according to our guy, John? Again, more caffeine. More. Hang on. Okay, we're reloaded. John says, what if LSU has a top 50 defense in 2024? Now, last year, LSU had a 105th ranked total defense in college football. My folks in Baton Rouge right now just having flashbacks, feeling sick, thinking about the Ole Miss game, just not even recognizable. When I went to look up these stats, NCAA.com keeps all these stats, and they do it by pages, so it's like page 1, 2, and 3 to track all the total defense. LSU was on the third page. When was the last time LSU's total defense was on the third page? I would love to know the answer to that. LSU, and their fan base would probably say this as well, they looked unrecognizable for that standard that they've had for a long time out there on the defensive side of the football. Now, the good news, if you're an LSU fan, Brian Kelly said, yeah, I agree. So what does he do? Cleans house, hits reset, new staff. You go and get Blake Baker from Missouri. You go and get Bo Davis as well from Texas to be your defensive line coach. There will be new energy. There will be a new approach. There will be a new voice on the defensive side of the football. I'm just saying, from being in a locker room, sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes that's all you need to kind of kick things into gear, because how and where you set the temperature matters in a college football locker room, in a program, with how you do things, your standards. And Brian Kelly, cleaning house, getting the defensive staff in there, is saying, listen, that temperature y'all had it set at, that was not hot enough. That was not good enough. So he brings in individuals that are going to, in turn, set that temperature at the same level that Brian Kelly expects. Don't believe me? Go ahead and YouTube the Bo Davis rant on the bus at Texas. I would do so without children in the room because he uses some choice words there. But, that is Bo Davis in a supposed to be private setting, setting the temperature at Texas when they're not winning at a high level, saying, if you don't want to be here, then hit the portal. This matters to us. If you don't want to play at our standard, get out of here. And so that was him at Texas, and you saw what happened to Texas while he was there and how successful they were. I love that if I'm a Tiger fan. I love having Bo Davis on my staff now if I'm an LSU fan, because him bringing that juice and that intensity and that temperature to our locker room and our defensive side of the football, that's going to translate. What it looks like and how long it takes remains to be seen, but that is going to benefit LSU, whether it's addition by subtraction or addition by addition, if you catch my drift there. The portal is open for everybody. I'll say that. So, top 50. How good are you if you're a top 50 defense? Iowa State was top 50 in total defense last year. They allowed 20 points a game, 24 points a game, statistically speaking. The personnel to me at LSU defensively, because it is about the Jimmies and the Joes, still very much so wait and see. Like the defensive line, you didn't land anybody massive in the portal, and that was well publicized based on Brian Kelly's responses to how they're going to use the portal, and I respect him for it. Still have Harold Perkins. Love Harold Perkins. I think if you can put him in position to be successful and have him be a version of what he was his freshman season, all bets are off. He is someone who can take over a game at the linebacker position. So let that dude go hunt the quarterback is what I would say there, and I think they're going to probably do a version of that this year. The secondary, I have a little bit of concern about, especially if you watch the spring. And now, spring game, you take from it what you want to take from it. You could say Garrett Nussmeier was dealing, and that's probably a fair thing to say. But wait and see is what I would say about the LSU defense as we sit here right now. But again, statistically speaking, if LSU has a top 50 defense, the number 50 ranked total defense last year was Iowa State. They allowed 24 points a game. That's good. It's not elite. It's a heck of a lot better than 30 points a game. So the question then becomes, if your defense is going to take some strides forward, and I believe they will, how much better does the offense have to be? Like, what's the trade-off? Because last year you had an offense that was, quite honestly, college football playoff, if not national title winning caliber, with Jaden Daniels and multiple first-round picks at wide receiver. Pretty straightforward. You had a defense that was probably like 4-8, 5-7 caliber. Sounds harsh, but I think the most folks in Baton Rouge would agree that was what you were working with last year defensively. Now, this year, I think it's natural to lose what you lost on offense, to have the offense take maybe a half step back or two. I don't think that's wildly irresponsible to assume. I will say this. I still trust Garrett Nussmeier. I am really excited about the college football world getting introduced to him. The fact that he stayed at LSU, one, if you're a Tiger fan, you commend him for it. I don't know what the NIL incentive was to keep him there. I have to imagine there was something in place, but you applaud him for staying at LSU. Also, if you saw the speech he gave to the team on LSU's social media page, you can tell that's a dude where it matters to him to be at LSU. He doesn't take wearing that logo on his helmet for granted. So he cares about the right things. I think internally he's made of the right stuff as we sit here right now in June, from what we can tell. Also, he can throw that football over that there mountains, man. Like, I've tried to get the nickname the Gumbo Gunslinger some traction. Still working on that. There's still time to get that going. But, like, he can push the ball vertical. He loves to do so. The reps he's gotten behind closed doors, been able to watch Jaden Daniels, how he prepares, how he works, and go through that process with him through the week of a game is going to pay dividends. It is going to benefit him when he touches the grass. Also, the skill around him now, C.J. Daniels, if you watch this show, we're big fans of him transferring in from Liberty. Kyron Lacey feels like a big play waiting to happen, feels like it's his year this year at LSU. The schedule, too, for LSU is not awful. Like, there's no Georgia, there's no Texas. Yeah, USC in Vegas. You got Ole Miss at the crib. You're at A&M, Bama at the crib, at Florida, which is sneaky. You should be better on paper than Florida, but it's in the swamp. Oklahoma at home. A lot of big games at home. So for LSU, man, like, I think with a broad brush, if you're going to tell me defense is top 50, I think LSU can reasonably expect to be like 8-4, 9-3 football team. Now, the question that I would ask in addition to this what if LSU, Blake Baker gets in there, rest of that staff gets in there, and they turn it around quick, fast, and in a hurry. They get guys in position to be successful. They say, hey, coach, it wasn't the ingredients, it was the recipe. All right, now we're cooking. They have a top 30 defense. Top 30 defense, I think at that point you can start to expect this team to be in that like 10-win range. You're in the 10-win range, you're a college football playoff team in the SEC. LSU last year, even with that defense, won 9 ball games at the end of the regular season. They were the they were the number 13 team in the final college football playoff rankings. Now, I understand that doesn't translate all the way because in the new rankings, you have a G5 team in that final 12. But you hear what I'm saying. You go 10-2, Garrett Nussmeier does what I expect him to do. The defense levels up, not just top 50, but top 30, which is a massive jump, by the way. LSU's cooking. LSU could very well be a college football playoff kind of team. So how much better is that defense? We'll see. What's the trade-off with the offense? We'll see. But I think it's fair to be optimistic because of where Brian Kelly is setting the temperature with this new defensive staff. When we talk about setting the temperature, too, I should have probably said this during the segment. Setting the temperature is like setting the standard, which you hear Brian Kelly talk about a lot. Something he talked about a lot last year, or 2 years ago, rather, when he first got the job. How we do things, it matters. Same thing we said about Matt Rule. The details, the little things, the intensity. The intensity is another word for temperature. How intense you are about the little things makes a massive difference in the big things. I truly believe that. We believe that on this show. And Brian Kelly believes that with his football team, and that's going to, I think, translate in 2024. All right. Cannot wait to hear from y'all. About to go to the live chat here in just a matter of moments. It'll be a rapid-fire live chat now, okay? We got time for 3 questions. Just a matter of moments. So get those in, Nick Break, keeper of the queue. Subscribe to the channel as well and like the video to boost this thing up. We appreciate you for that. Before we get to that, though, I told y'all we're fired up about the new college football video game. This can be so awesome. It struck me a couple weeks ago that media days in Dallas, which we will be at, are jumping off when that game is dropped. So, again, if you're in Dallas, you got a PS5. If you're going to media days in Dallas, you got a PS5 and the game, hit me up and we'll talk. But with that being said, I think this is the part of the year we could start to, or part of the, I guess, life cycle for this college football video game. We can start to predict and project what certain players are going to be ranked. I thought it'd be appropriate for us right now to predict who the top offensive players are going to be in college football 25. Now, I'm not going to give a specific overall rating prediction just yet. We'll probably do that in a future video for the top players in the game. But I'm going to go position by position here and tell you who I think the top players are going to be on the offensive side of the ball, in CFB 25. At quarterback, man, you could go with Carson Beck here. I could totally see it. You could go with Shedeur Sanders here. I could totally see it. To me, I'm just like, you put Quinn Ewers on the cover. Texas made the college football playoff last year, and Quinn Ewers finished 2023 absurdly strong. I would be shocked if he is not the top-ranked quarterback when this game comes out. If you put him out there in a pro day setting, like shorts and a T-shirt, his arm might have the most juice. I'm not saying that because I've seen Carson Beck or Shedeur Sanders throw in person, but I have seen Quinn Ewers. Actually, I have seen Carson Beck throw in person. I've seen Quinn Ewers throw in person, and it's hard for me to get that just laser that he threw downfield. It wasn't a laser. It was more of more of a drop in the bucket to Xavier Worthy in Tuscaloosa. So I think Quinn Ewers will be the highest-ranked quarterback in this game. At running back, this to me is a layup. Donovan Edwards is on the cover. I would not be so surprised if they made him the top back in the game, but like Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State has got to be the guy here. He led America in rush yards last year, second in rushing touchdowns. Again, cut and dry. Donovan Edwards, the cover athlete, you could see it. Quinshawn Judkins as well at Ohio State, you could see it. But I think for me, it's Ollie Gordon, and I feel pretty good about that prediction. To me, I'm writing this down draft day style. Ollie Gordon, no matter what. Cross it off. At wide receiver, it was tough for a little bit, but then I remember that Luther Burden exists. Like Tetairoa McMillan, I think he's going to have a massive year at Arizona. Emeka Ibuka, going to have a massive year, I think, at Ohio State. Travis Hunter is not on this list. He might be the top overall player in this game, just for the record. I don't know where you put him positionally. If you put him at wide receiver and he's your top wide receiver, I don't hate it. I think that's a great pick. I think if you're talking strictly receivers, though, Luther Burden has got to be the guy. For us at On3, in real college football, he was the number 2 player of any position heading into 2024. Had a massive year last year, over 1,000 yards receiving, 14 yards a catch. He touches the ball. He has a liability to go the distance. I expect him to continue to be a focal point of Missouri's offense in 2024, if not more so than he was in 2023. Luther Burden has video game-like traits when he plays real football. I think he'll be the number 1 wide receiver when the game comes out. At tight end, Oscar Delp makes some sense to me here. I'm leaning Colston Loveland from a production standpoint. Oscar Delp could be a guy when this game comes out next year where he's the top tight end. But Colston Loveland, 6'5", 245 pounds. He is athletic enough to where you can put him in the slot. I think his production makes him the top guy with 649 yards receiving to the 284 yards receiving that Oscar Delp had. 45 catches to 24 catches. I could see Amari Niblack as well, but again, I lean towards Colston Loveland here. Also, let's be honest here, probably helps you played for the national championship team in Michigan for Colston Loveland. He is a mountain of a human being, and I think he is the number 1 tight end in this game. This was the toughest one for me to land on here. On the offensive line, I went back and forth. They're both going to be top 10 picks, to be real with y'all, but I'm going Will Campbell over Kelvin Banks. Will Campbell currently big dog, bell cow offensive lineman at LSU. Kelvin Banks, the same deal at Texas. You could pick either one you want here. I went Will Campbell because I think he's maybe a little bit more of a known commodity among the college football public. Got the number 7 nod, even though they don't give him the number 7 jersey at LSU, which is wild to me. Again, they're both going to be dudes. I'll give the slight lean to LSU and Will Campbell. Probably also helps that you blocked for the Heisman Trophy winner last year, even though Texas made the college football playoff. So not surprised if it's Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell, but I think the offensive line, if I'm making a pick today and a prediction, is Will Campbell at LSU. So to recap it, at quarterback, makes sense for a lot of different guys, but I'm going to go with the cover guy in Quinn Ewers. Ollie Gordon is my back at Oklahoma State. That will be the top-rated guy in the game. Statistically, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. Luther Burden, top receiver in the game. Top tight end, Colston Loveland. It really is a matter of what you prefer here on the offensive line. I'm going to go Will Campbell with a slight, very slight lean over Kelvin Banks Jr. to be the top offensive lineman in college football 2025. But make sure you're subscribed here. Make sure you're dialed in so you don't miss a minute of anything college football, period, or college football 2025, the video game. So make sure you're dialed in there and let me know who you have as the top players at their respective positions on the offensive side of the football. We got top overall players coming for you and top defensive players coming for you in future live shows. So another reason to be subscribed to this platform. All right. Hey, it's a big What If Wednesday, man. It's even bigger What If Wednesday whenever you got that man, Nick freaking Break on the ones and twos, punching the show live, managing the live chat. About to go rapid fire in the live chat right now with y'all. Nick, what's up, brother? What's the good people saying today?
What's up, man? Hey, first question coming from Happen. Says, JD, with the new NIL landscape, how will region-based recruiting be impacted, if at all?
I think we're going to see less region-based recruiting. I think that's why a team like Oregon is primed. Money is becoming a massive part of recruiting these days. Now, it shouldn't be the only factor, but like if I live in, let's just throw out a state. Let's say I live in California, and I'm getting paid more money to go to a school in the Southeast, that's probably going to matter. Or in the Big Ten, that's probably going to matter. So that's maybe a poor example because California, you could still get good money, I'm sure, at different schools like USC or Oregon, I'm sure, is more than willing to make something happen if you're worth their dime. I just think it's another factor that could pull a kid away from home. How's that?
Cool. The truth. What's one word to describe Lance Leipold if Kansas wins the Big 12 this season?
Wow. How about this? You ready for this, Nick? Statue. Get him a statue. I know Bill Self is the guy out there, but like football school, Kansas wins the Big 12. I would personally love that because it would be insanely wacky, which is what the Big 12 is right now, what college football is right now. I'm being hyperbolic a little bit. We're kind of having fun with this one, but I'll say statue for Lance Leipold. You got one there, Nick? You got a if Kansas wins the Big 12, how about this? One word to describe your reaction if Kansas wins the Big 12.
I don't even know, man.
Juiced.
Juiced? I'll take juiced.
Juiced, fired up is 2 words, I suppose. Perplexed.
I'll be Kansas.
Be Kansas. That's the one right there.
There you go.
I love it. We got one more to send us out of here, Big Nick.
Yes. Shout out Cody Blair, who's in the chat. He wants to know, on your way out, he wants to know what you would run for behind Georgia's offensive line.
Oh, my gosh.
But first, Goat Dog says, when was your college football Roman Empire? Random college football players from the 2010s is great for Goat Dog's personal nostalgia, but what's yours?
Oh, Roman Empire of college football. Like, what's the Roman Empire? I'm gonna say he's going off of. I'm gonna say he's going off of like the like a team specifically.
It's like no. What's your peak time?
An era?
Era in college football. When did it peak?
That's so tough because I love the 4-team playoff personally. Like the 4-team to me is so fun, and so it's hard for me not to say that was one of the best times in college football. It's also I also have trouble with this question because that implies that the best is behind us, which I have a hard time getting behind. Just like, I mean, Nick, I'm a glass half full. My cup runneth over, brother. Like it's always good vibes. But man, to this point, I will put my Roman Empire as early 2000s, like when USC was winning and we had Keith Jackson on the call, we had Vince Young, and we had the BCS. Like, I say early 2000s is probably what I would peg right now. Also, the 2007 season. Like, there's a lot of different milestones and checkpoints from 2000 to, let's say, 2009, 2010 that are just kind of like special college football moments. So I'll go ahead and say that 10-year stretch from 2000 to 2010.
Okay.
Cody Bellaire's question, though, how many yards am I running for behind Georgia's offensive line? Man. See, like how many yards am I running for? I'm not, like, super confident in my current abilities to, like, finish through the line and get us, like, 4 yards a carry. I think I'd go for 3 yards a carry. Like, let me look this up. What did Georgia run for on average last year? I think they were one of the best yards per carry teams in America. Hang on, y'all. I'm going to get us a better answer here because this is a great question from Cody Belaire. Also, Cody Belaire, one of the GOATs in the whole scouting industry, and we have him here at On 3. So if you haven't yet looked him up on Twitter, would encourage you to do so and follow him because he just drops bangers. Yeah, okay, so 5 yards a carry last year as a team for Georgia. I think I can get 3. I may not do a lot for you after contact. I may not make a lot of people miss in the open field. I think I can get 3 yards a carry so long as Carson Beck's keeping the defense honest and they have to worry about the pass game too. Some draws in there. Like, I think I could go for 3 yards a carry.
Okay.
You know?
A lot of people are asking, hey, what's your team in Dynasty? We've got a video about that on the channel. Go check it out.
Go check it out, y'all. Named several teams.
Mm-hmm.
EMU, though.
Yep.
I got an EMU t-shirt I'm waiting to break out for when we get Dynasty mode rolling. That'll be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Nick, any break takes for us, brother, before we get you out of here?
No, not today, man.
Nothing?
Start my kickball tonight, and that's it.
Whoa, how we feel?
Not very good.
Not very good. Okay, but you
New
are
team.
more of a like, let's walk in with low expectations and be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that's my thing. I don't like being disappointed, so keep my expectations low.
There we go.
It's not pessimism. It's just delayed optimism.
You like Modern Family, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Phil Dunphy has this great line. It was my sister's senior quote. the greatest things in life can happen to you if you just lower your expectations.
Yes.
You ever heard that?
Yes, I have.
It's tough. Tough. But hey, good luck tonight, Nick. You got OG Gary saying Natty Nick in the chat. Let's go, baby.
Thank you, OG Gary.
Let's go.
I'll see you guys.
Awesome, big Nick. Kickball tonight, big show tomorrow. The biggest Thursday of the week is on deck tomorrow. Got a lot lined up. We're going to talk about head coaches that we would hire if we were starting a program tomorrow. Key caveat here, less than 5 years of head coaching experience. So we'll give you our answer tomorrow. Reply in the chat or reply in the comment section who you would roll with. Again, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Just don't want y'all to miss anything, right? Like we say it a lot. It's kind of like when you're walking up a mountain, you got a big group you're hiking with. You just always check and say, hey, everybody here, doing that in the subscribe button here. Everybody here, everybody subscribe, cool. Same deal on podcast. Hey, we love y'all, man. We are incredibly lucky to do this for a job. It is absolutely hysterical that we get to talk college football for a full hour and call it work. When in reality, we would love to do that for free, but don't tell them that. For me, for Nick Brake, for me, JD Piquel, for all of us here at On 3, love y'all, appreciate y'all. Going to keep this party rolling. We'll see y'all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. We will see y'all, of course, next time.